Ladies and gentlemen, Elite Heat's back. I'm honestly really excited for this show. One of the most I've been in recent times.
Same.
We got a lot to, I guess, let you guys know about right off the jump. So, firstly, before we get to that, Kevin, how you doing,
Oh,
pal?
I'm lovely, pal. Doing great. I watched an entire episode of SmackDown right before we recorded this, so that's a spoiler alert of when this is being recorded. I'm
Yep.
feeling good. I'm rocking Eddie Guerrero merch. It's what? It's 11:35 here, Eastern Time, on a Friday night, pal. I'm here talking to you guys on a Friday night. Let's get it.
Kevin, that's great stuff. For me, it's Saturday, 1:35 p.m. in the afternoon. I've already done a bunch of stuff in the morning. I'm ready to go for today. I've been looking forward to the show all week for a number of reasons. We've got some things to announce in a minute or two. But firstly, I just want to say from my end, and I know, Kevin, you probably have the same similar sentiments. It's now September. That sort of dawned on me, the other day. The year's, two-thirds done. We're in the final third of the year. You give it like 2 weeks, it'll be in October, 2 or 3 weeks, it'll be October, there'll be like 3 months to go, and you'll think, oh my God, where did 2023 go? I just want to say on behalf of Elite Heat, it's been awesome bringing you guys content every week, or 2 a week, or maybe even 3 a week in a couple of cases throughout the entire year. The consistency I'm quite proud of. I know as a show, we've done a good job there, and it's not going to stop anytime soon. So, Kevin, do
Yeah.
you want to unveil anything or talk to listeners about something here?
Well, first off, I'm gonna say this before we go into the big announcement. For those of you that are listening to this on YouTube, if you wouldn't mind, if you could just click the Spotify link that's in the description of this episode and give the Spotify version of the show a 5-star review. Maybe click play on there, send it to somebody you know, but please, 5-star reviews would be great. We just need 2 more to get to 15 5-star reviews, so that'd be big. Helps us get into the algorithm. So yeah, now, to the announcement. We've done a few times on this podcast, on this very here show, we've roasted the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Awards. And I know some of you may think, oh, well, if you guys can roast the awards, we'd like to see you do it better. Well, that's what we're here to do. We're going to do it better. At the end of the year, we're going to give you the Elite Heat Awards. We're going to give you a decisive, objective list of the best wrestlers, the best matches, most overrated, most underrated, best pay-per-view. We're going to do it all.
Kevin, this is something which, as soon as we do, because this is like one of our big yearly series. There's something that I know I have listeners tell me about is what they look forward to. Us blasting the Wrestling Observer, rinsing them for their hideous decisions. This year I remember nearly having an aneurysm over the most overrated category and a couple of others. I nearly burst a blood vessel. I know you are similar with one or two. This year we're going to do our own big time Elite Heat Awards. This won't just be your regular wrestling podcast. Now let's do match of the year. I like this match from AEW Revolution. This match, no, this is going to be big time. More will be uncovered on this. Wrestling Uncovered. More will be uncovered over the next few months with this, and more details will be found
Yeah.
out. So, yeah, Kevin, I really look forward to that. And the other thing with those awards, we're doing something else. Now, many people consistently every year want to see the PWI 500, or really that's the big one, the big wrestler rankings. And I know, Kevin, earlier this year we did a Elite Heat draft. You guys love that. We're going to do something similar in the awards season in December. We're going to do a Elite Heat, we're still deciding the number, 25, Elite Heat 50. It's like a definitive 2023 Wrestlers of the Year rankings. That's going to cause some great unrest, great discussion. I think it's going to be one of the big things of our show. The Elite Heat 25, the Elite Heat 50, that's coming in December. So look forward to that. Maybe one thing you can watch throughout the year with the rest of wrestling or whatever you're watching, you can start to think about where this wrestler, where that wrestler would rank all throughout the year. Maybe send us in if you want to email us or put in comments, interact with us early where you think wrestlers should rank, who you think should be top 5, who you think should be top 10. If I start to hint at things and you get disgusted as listeners, or Kevin throughout the next few months, how dare you even imply this wrestler's top 5, top 10? Jimmy, you know nothing. Shut up. Kevin's in the right here. Or maybe the opposite. Maybe everyone will be rinsing you, Kevin, saying you know nothing. This wrestler should be clearly in the top 20, clearly top 25, and you says not 100. So, yeah, there's that. Kevin, anything else we've forgotten?
Yeah, we do a little house cleaning here, pal. So starting next week, we're gonna have a 5-episode season. where you and I are gonna rank our top 50 wrestlers of all time. A lot of thought has gone into this. We're gonna make decisive lists, and we're gonna compare our lists. And I don't know what we're gonna do. Maybe we're gonna yell about them. Maybe we'll come up with a concurrent list. But we're gonna start, with the top 50, 50 to 41. That'll be next week, and then we're gonna go down for 5 weeks till we get to the greatest wrestler of all time. So that's gonna be fun. Stay tuned to that. Next 5 weeks, we're gonna be doing that. And then around the world, a big around the world this week. I got a lot to say. I got a funny story that I can't wait to tell you all. So yeah, and then the email is eliteheat102@gmail.com. Send us some emails, like you said, you want to interact with the Elite Heat Awards, or you want to send us something to discuss on around the world, whatever the case may be. I'll put the email in the description. So that's all I got, pal. I'm ready.
No, it should be really good. I just want to say one more thing on that Elite Heat, that top 50 wrestlers of all time thing we're doing. That's really gonna escalate. So it's gonna be a bit of a slow burn. We're not just gonna do a big episode and it's all gonna be done in one go. As Kevin says, 50 to 41, 40 to 31, 30 to 21, yada yada. We're gonna do a special episode for the top 10 because that's where it gets really that's where the debates happen. That's probably gonna be a 2-hour episode at least. Where I crown or I rank my ghost, you rank your greatest of all time, our Mount Rushmore definitively. We've had these discussions over the past year, 2, 3 years of this podcast, but that's going to be the definitive where we rank ex-wrestlers. So it's going to be great. And I just love the thought of, some big content to come, Kevin. Big content to come as we round out 2023. It's been a really good year, I think, and then move into 2024, a year which it's going to be spicy, Kevin. It's going to be an intense, powerful year, 2024, led by the Bloodline and Cody Rhodes, Kevin. Do you want to transition off to that?
Let's get to it, pal. Our first question. It's a hot one. This is a scorcher. I'll ask you this. Is the Bloodline, is that faction, is that storyline becoming stale?
Oh, the wording. Everyone's going to love that. No, that question, to me, Kevin, when I watched the Bloodline with Roman Reigns sitting at home on his couch in Pensacola, Florida with his 5 children and belts laid on his couch, it is not the same. And this is one of the things when it comes to Roman and I guess the landscape of WWE that they've opted for with Roman winning at WrestleMania, this is what they got themselves into. Obviously, as we've discussed, Roman Reigns will not be there every single week, and nor should he, might I say. He's not there every week. So what we get as a result when it comes to the Bloodline are these, 4-week, 6-week, 8-week blocks. We saw one after WrestleMania, Kevin, around Backlash time, April, May. We're seeing one now, August, most of September. We just don't see Roman. Roman's just not there. And Kevin, I guess when he comes back, I don't know when Roman returns, even though he has both championships, it's going to be great. I'm sure the segments will be good cinema segments. I'm sure they'll give us some good content we can analyze, discuss. That's great. But on this question, is the Bloodline stale? I'm personally at the point, or with what they're doing now at least, when Roman isn't involved, to me it is stale is a strong word. I'll use it just in the sense that when Roman's there, it's like, oh my God. But when Roman's not there, Kevin, you watched SmackDown tonight. I'm going to pass this to you. Tell us what happened tonight. What was this? This was the Friday, September 8th episode. So we're looking at about a month after SummerSlam. This is the sort of, I won't say the guts of the WWE year, but we're not at WrestleMania. WrestleMania 39 is long gone. WrestleMania 40 is still a while away. We're not at the Rumble yet. We've passed SummerSlam. What did the Bloodline do tonight, pal?
So I watched this show, like you said, and it felt like with the Bloodline, at least on this episode, it felt like they're kind of running circles right now. We did get a tease with LA Knight and Paul Heyman. That was pretty big, where Paul Heyman just kind of brushed off LA Knight. He was like, yeah, get out of here, kid. Yeah, So that's cool. But as far as the stuff that's going on with the Usos and Solo Sikoa in particular, it's kind of hard for them to keep up the Bloodline when one guy is on Raw, the other guy is hated by everybody in the faction. Roman hates Jimmy, Jay hates Jimmy, Solo and Paul Heyman hate Jimmy. Basically what we saw on tonight's SmackDown was Jimmy went up to Paul Heyman and it was he's wearing the We Are the One shirt. It's like, I'm still in the Bloodline. Nobody kicked me out. None of the elders kicked me out. I'm still here. And Paul's just like, well, kind of, but not really, you know? And then they kind of had each other's back. Like, Paul Heyman got into a confrontation with AJ Styles, and then Jimmy beat him up, and it's like, okay, kinda. I don't know. It's interesting. I know Triple H is the one that's writing down the segments. I had a notebook ready. Hold on, pal. I'm gonna get my notebook.
Okay. While Kevin does that, what I will say, just while he gets the notes here, I do like that they're going for this, I guess, Styles versus Roman Reigns thing, is what they were teasing. Kevin, Styles versus Roman Reigns, I think, is where they might go for Saudi Arabia, I guess. So there's your direction. You know, when Dana White gets off his couch in Pensacola with his 5 children, I guess that's where they're going to go. But Kevin, over to you. This is your bit right now. You've got your notebook there. You're with our listeners. You can hear me.
Yep, I'm here. I'm doing what Triple H does right now. I'm writing down the segment, pal. I'm writing down the show. I got the pen. All right, so here we go. That says Jimmy Uso and Paul Heyman segment. So that's what Paul Levesque wrote down in his office for the 15-minute slot, 15-minute in the first quarter slot of SmackDown today. So because Triple H wrote that on a piece of paper and Vince McMahon did not, now that is defined as magical, cinematic, advancement in the storyline. This is the best storyline in wrestling history. All because Paul Levesque took a pen and a piece of paper and said, Paul Heyman segment. I'm going to do it again. Paul Heyman backstage segment. All right, I'm writing this down in real time.
Oh
Paul Heyman backstage segment. Triple H did that right there. Just wrote down Paul Heyman backstage segment. So that means now that we are told that this is the best that wrestling's been in 25 years. That this is the height of wrestling because Triple H wrote that segment. And Vince McMahon wrote down this segment and said, you know what, Paul Heyman backstage with the Usos, and they executed the exact same segment. People would say, oh, this is the worst SmackDown in months. Oh, SmackDown was boring tonight. But again, Paul Levesque wrote it, and there's a safer, calmer work environment now in WWE, so that means that the on-screen product just has to be loved and praised for everything that it is. So, in short,
Yep.
I don't want to say the Bloodline is being stale. That's a very strong statement. I don't want to say that it's gotten stale, but I think kind of like what Wrestling Gift said on his SummerSlam review. They did the Jimmy Uso and the Jey Uso thing, storyline, the turn, just to do it. There's really no reason for it. Right now, we're at a point where the Bloodline is not really doing anything. Like I said, they're kind of running in circles. And they're going to get to bigger stuff when Roman comes back in November. It'll be the best that SmackDown's been when Roman's back. But right now, I'm not all that interested in what the Bloodline's doing. And I know it's just a transitional period, but I don't know. It just feels like they're adding layers to a story that doesn't really need it. But realistically, what else can you do without Roman there?
Well, Kevin, when Triple H sat down in February of this year or March or whenever and did what you did just there with a notebook, a pen, and wrote down WrestleMania 39 main event, Roman Reigns defeats Cody Rhodes, and then wrote down WrestleMania 40 main event, Cody Rhodes defeats Roman Reigns. As soon as he did that, what's going to happen as a byproduct? We have, 52 SmackDowns, 52 Raws between, as we know. Roman Reigns isn't going to show up on every single one of them, nor should he, as I said. But there are some filler months in there. And what we get is stuff like that. And months like this where Roman... When was the last time Roman was on... Was that SummerSlam?
Yeah, it was the lead up to SummerSlam. That was the last time he... Or, no, he was on the Raw after SummerSlam, I think.
Yeah, because he was at SummerSlam where he had the 36-minute main event match where everyone knew what the outcome would be, and they were literally fighting over a necklace. I remember that.
Wow.
But beyond that, Kevin, tell me when I'm telling lies, pal. Phil Brooks. But, when I look at SmackDown just generally now, Jimmy Uso is on SmackDown. Jey Uso is on Raw. I guess they're trying to keep them separate until WrestleMania next year. I guess. I don't know, Kevin, it's sort of how much stock you put in this Usos match. Because as we've discussed in this show, that's like the greatest tag team of all time, or one of them. And they're going to have a match against each other. But I don't know. Well, am I disrespectful for saying I don't feel I need to wait 6 months to see that at WrestleMania? Like, can that not happen now as the big feud on SmackDown? Like, I don't know. I get it. Cody's played politics backstage and recruited Jey Uso to Raw, and then Cody's gonna get traded. Cody's gonna get traded to SmackDown using Jey Uso's love and friendship sometime next few months, and then Cody's gonna be confronting Roman on SmackDown in January. I get it. I understand what they're doing, but I'm just saying, Jey Uso, Jimmy Uso, they're on separate shows. The Bloodline storyline, seemingly for the next month at least, has come to a grinding halt with what you can really progress. So, I don't know. Am I wrong, Kevin? Talk to us.
I think okay. So what we want to say is this: the Bloodline has been great for almost 3 years now, just about, and everything they do for the most part has been good. Now, the fact that they've taken a little bit of a step back and they're regressing right now,
yeah,
it's okay. You know, every faction has their moment. Now, will this hit NWO like 98 levels of bad, where you got like Virgil joining the NWO? You know, where WWE, they pluck like JD Madonahue, your boy, and he's a member of the Bloodline for no reason. Like, will it get to that point? Hopefully not. I don't think it's at that level. It's not bad by any means. It's just not as fresh and as captivating as it once was. Like, I'm not sitting there watching Jimmy Uso in a backstage segment yelling at Paul Heyman thinking, wow, this is like really good. This is like as good as the peak Bloodline stuff is really all that we're trying to say here.
Yeah. And in fairness, I must say, and just to be objective here, this compared to what we were getting 3 to 5 years ago still, even right now where it's like, it's not Roman Reigns entering Montreal to face this raging hot Sami Zayn after a year of storytelling. It's not at that sort of peak, which in my opinion, that was that the peak of the Bloodline? That Roman Reigns, Sami Zayn, like Elimination Chamber sort of time in February? Was it? I don't know. It's certainly one of them. But, now what we're getting, Jimmy Uso, he walks over to Paul Heyman. Heyman awkwardly doesn't interact with him properly and runs off on Skype to Roman Reigns, giggling like a 14-year-old girl. I guess that's what's going on now. And that's fine, because Kevin, one more thing on this before we move on. I just want to say, we know what's going to happen with the Bloodline roughly. We don't know exactly the timeline, but we know there's going to be a Solo Sikoa turn at some stage. We know Roman's eventually going to lose this title, probably at WrestleMania 40 to Cody Rhodes. He's going to have his big moment, you would assume at this point. And then from there, maybe another Samoan or two will join the fray, and we'll get Jey versus Jimmy Uso at a big show. That's sort of like the roadmap generally. But where we get to that, Kevin, is what you say with your little notebook, Paul Levesque going, SmackDown for September 22nd. What do we do? Paul Heyman, Solo Sikoa, Jimmy Uso, interview. There we go, cinema. So
that's it, pal. All right, so now the next question, the big barn burner of a question for you is this.
Oh, God.
It is September 8th, pal. We're roughly 5 months removed, just a little bit over 5 months removed from the transpirings at WrestleMania 39. That saw Roman Reigns defeat Cody Rhodes, which you mentioned. Now, a little bit of fun here, a little bit of fantasy booking, if you will, a little bit of imagination here with this one. Yeah. What do you think, hypothetically, if Cody Rhodes had won the championship at WrestleMania 39, the undisputed Universal Heavyweight Championship being, what do you think Cody Rhodes' reign with said title would be right now, 5 months in? What would he be doing? Would it be good? Would he still be champion, you think?
This is a great question as well, because we're now far enough removed from WrestleMania, Kevin, where it's not just like, like we have some evidence to go with. I mean, what I was projecting at the time, I know you had strong opinions coming back my way. This is some of our most heated Elite Heat debate content all year was surrounding this. I wrote down 2 pages of notes and nearly burst a blood vessel in one of our Elite takes like 5 months ago over this. Nonetheless, Kevin, when I look at Cody now, he's clearly the face of WWE. This is the guy in WWE. This is the one who's going on the morning shows. He's wearing the suits. He looks very professional, clean-cut look. As you discussed in our All In podcast, this is who people know as the son of Dusty Rhodes. This is a wrestling person. Cody he bleeds wrestling entertainment, WWE. So in that regard, I think it would have been really good. Now, one thing I will say, there would have been some pullback on Cody's reign because of the Brock feud. I think what people would have said was, this is getting repetitive. Cody's getting punched by Brock every week. This is the guy he gave the title to. I'm not sure. I think that feedback would have come around June, July, about, when they were doing the third Brock match. People would have been like, is this it? I think the SummerSlam moment with Brock, if that was involving a championship belt, it would have been great. Most of that Brock feud was pretty good, like main event of Raw, main event storytelling involving like two big time stars. I like the little Dom match they did, the Money in the Bank, and the little program they did with Dom. Good, good talent, not bad, Dom. And what they're doing now, I guess, is just sort of getting Cody through to, January, really, to be honest. Like, from what I've seen in the last week or two or three, Cody's hardly seeming like the absolute big dog on Raw. It's seeming like Gunther's show at the moment, Rollins' show. Cody's just sort of there with Jey Uso, I guess. So, I don't know, Kevin. I'm going to pass this to you. I want your take on this. What is your opinion on where Cody's reign would be now, 5.5 months in?
Pal, I gotta be honest with you. I think SmackDown, if Cody Rhodes was champion right now, September 8th, I think this edition of SmackDown would be just the Nightmare Family running wild. I think the show would open with a shot of Cody getting out of the limo, walking Pharaoh into the arena, kissing Brandy Rose on the lips, and then 10 minutes in, we get a backstage segment with QT Marshall.
That is ridiculous. So, Kevin, I'm going to cut you off there on that. The fact that you take this question there, you didn't tell me about this question when we were writing up the rundown, and you've pulled this out to try and smear this agenda, this smear campaign, rhetoric, propaganda, BS, that Cody would be running around with the championship. Pharaoh would be barking at Baron Corbin. You'd have QT Marshall main eventing shows, roaring, flexing. Brandy would be getting out of the limousine. This is nonsense, Kevin. You know damn well. You know it and I know it, pal. Cody as champion would be great for the company. And I stand by this. I stood by it 5 months ago, and I'll stand by it now. Cody as champion would open up many doors. It would be what's better for WWE. He would have the top prize, the top face, the top title. It would be great. 2023, the year of Cody objectively. And you've taken it down this avenue. You've gone, he'd be opening shows on SmackDown, getting out of the limo with Pharaoh and Brandy. And QT would be there polishing his boots. And you'd have Dustin Rhodes. Kevin.
Are you so upset because you know it's true? Is that why you're so upset?
Kevin, I'm going to give you 30 seconds to apologize for that egregious, disgusting take. Kevin, you know damn... Okay. Carry on. Maybe you finish your point and it's better. Carry on.
No, I refuse to apologize. No, in all seriousness, though. Mm-hmm. I think right now, at this point in Cody's reign, I do think this would be the point where people are kind of like, okay, like, what's next? Because I think that's inevitable with Cody as the champion. But with anybody, really, that's a full-time champion. Like, Cody probably would have been on both shows, Raw and SmackDown, every single week. Like, people would be like, okay, like, what's next? Like, who's the next guy? Or they would think, like, all right, do we really need to see Cody versus Chad Gable right now at Payback? Like, I think we'd be at that point in Cody's title reign, in my complete, like, no jokes, like, in all seriousness. The Brock thing would be done, and then, like, what's next? And I think, yeah, like, when you don't have your champion on TV every week, there's times where it's like, okay, we'd like to see our champion. But it just makes the champion all that much more special when he does appear. So I still think that's why it's smart to have the title on Roman. Right now, you got to capitalize on Roman. He's the biggest thing in wrestling by far and away. Like, yeah, Cody's great, but Cody's still, like, he's still number two to Roman at the end of the day.
That's fair.
It's just like, if we're talking eras, like, you're doing like an 80s comparison. Roman is Hogan, and then Cody's like Macho Man, but he's not as good as Macho Man. So he's like below what Macho Man was, so, and it's like still not quite the same level, Roman is here and Cody's like there. So yeah, you don't have the title on Roman. Yeah, you're sacrificing some bad SmackDowns in the middle of September that are not nearly as criticized. If Vince McMahon was out there writing segments like these shows would be more criticized than they are now, but they're lackluster, average, below average shows, and that's okay because when Roman's around, business is going to pick up, as Gorilla Monsoon would say.
Yeah, no, fair. And Kevin, I'll say, we'll sort of transition. It's just sort of like a fun little quick question. You mentioned the number 2 thing just there. This it may be a little teaser for our Elite Heat 25, Elite Heat 50 later in the year. But obviously, if we're doing this thing that, yeah, Cody's 2, I could go on for an hour on why that's just utter filth and wrong. But nonetheless, I won't do that now. Where's Drew McIntyre right now? Because he certainly isn't number 2. He's certainly not number 5 or in the top 10. Like, where would Drew McIntyre be? Because 2.5 years ago, he was clearly number 2, number 1 for like a few months, but number 2. And now, where is he? He looks like he might turn heel soon. But where would you put Drew? Like, is he even top 25?
Yeah, I was thinking, I don't want to say that he's not top 50, because that's outrageous. To not have Drew McIntyre in your top 50 wrestlers of any calendar year. Just based on his track record and how good he is when he's on and when he's doing good things.
Yeah.
That WrestleMania match alone puts him in the top 50. Now, top 25? Maybe. I mean, our list is going to be incorporated of all wrestlers. AEW, Japan, Indies. We're going to incorporate everyone in that list. So, I don't know. I mean, McIntyre is certainly not top 10 for 2023. For 2023 list, certainly not top 10, certainly not top 15. I could probably name 20 guys better than him in 2023, so I don't think he's going to be top 25. I don't think.
Yeah, a guy like Drew is just one of these interesting case studies, and we're not going to harp on him too much. We're going to move on with the show. We didn't even plan any discussion on Drew, but it's just fascinating to see because, once again, this guy in 2020 I thought he was like, not the next big thing. He was a guy who for 5 years would be like the main event babyface, or at least one of the top 2. But he's fallen right off the pecking order. And now I'm seeing statements Drew's making or little quotes that are being pulled out from these big accounts I'm being shared from on Twitter. Oh, I'm standing by my WWE contract. I was never going to go anywhere. And Drew's just sort of the guy who, he's under contract. He had a good run in 2020, 2021. And he had a good WrestleMania match, a really good WrestleMania match involving the IC title. But, yeah, he's lost his spot, and he's fallen quite a few spots down the pecking order. So, Kevin, with that being said, I see you writing on your little notepad there. Are you writing down a match, pal? Are you writing down a program? Are you writing down another AEW Tokyo Dome Classic for us?
You'll see, pal. But I think with that being said, it's now time to get to our next question. So I'll ask you this. Yeah. I'm looking right in the eyes. Virtually, I'm looking right at you in the eyes, pal. Does Gunther's record-breaking Intercontinental title run make him one of the greatest wrestlers ever? And now, before you answer this question, I want to preface this. Gunther is the greatest, is the longest reigning IC title champion because Paul Levesque wrote this on a piece of paper. Gunther, what that says is, the picture's messing up. Gunther breaks Honky Tonk Man's IC title reign record. So Paul Levesque wrote that on a piece of paper. Remember, this is predetermined. The length of a championship reign, for me, does not necessarily calculate too much when looking at these things. As like I'm not gonna say Gunther's a top 30 wrestler of all time now, based on a predetermined title reign that Paul Levesque wrote down, like I did. So,
yeah, Kevin, I'll say this: it's a great accolade. Obviously, that's what it is. It's Triple H writing down a piece of paper. Gunther breaks Honky Tonk Man's IC title run. This was planned out, no doubt, months back, and it's great that they're making the championship seem really good. I don't think there's a negative that can be said about, especially the IC title, considering where this belt was 2-3 years ago. I've gone at length about this. You've gone at length. It wasn't even on the show. Like, there'd be literally 2 or 3 months where you barely notice it. It's like a forgettable prop. And this title, as we've discussed, was like a big beacon of light at WrestleMania 3, one of the great matches and the great IC title matches in the 90s, the ladder matches, like all this great history and lineage. So off the bat, we'll say what every other wrestling podcast says. It's great. The championship feels important, yada, yada. What I need to say, though, what I need to address surrounds, this isn't really a Gunther thing because Gunther's legitimately good. So this isn't at all about like Gunther or formerly Volta. This is about these long reigns. Okay, Kevin, I'm not a fan, personally, of this style of booking. It's very, and obviously Triple H is the one writing that piece of paper. It's very 70s, very 80s. And I get Triple H's philosophy. You have the champion hold it for a really long time, and whoever beats them feels like a big deal who's important. I get that. I'm sure you do too. Most people get that. That's common sense. But it feels like a feeling that every second champion is going to win the title, and then they're just going to hold it for like a year, 2 years, 500 days, and they're just going to beat everyone. And then eventually someone's going to beat them. Cool. But every reign's going to be a year or 2 years when someone wins a title, and then some titles, granted, aren't like that. Maybe for a few, it's every couple of months. But Kevin, I don't know. To me, I look at Triple H and this booking style. Yes, Roman's obviously the big shining example. He'll finish his run at like 1,300 days or something like that. I haven't done the maths. Gunther will end his at the longest reigning champion ever now, 500 plus days, 600 plus days, 700 plus days. Who knows? Belair's run went for like over a year, and like there's one as well I'm forgetting off the top of my head. Someone else held title for a long time. The Usos held their tag titles like 2 years.
Theory held the US title for almost a year.
Theory, and he sucks. Theory held it for nearly a year. Like, can we just cut out that philosophy? Like, I don't know. It depends on the wrestler, and a wrestler doesn't need to be pinned clean to lose a title as well. A wrestler can lose a title, and someone else can have the rub of the belt without them being pinned clean and beaten convincingly. I don't know. That's just something I want to get off my chest, because normally people are saying this. This isn't something that people are mentioning it in passing. But it feels like every person who wins a title is going to hold it for 2 years. And it's like, I don't know. Is this fair? Am I being harsh?
I don't know. I wouldn't say you're being harsh. No. I want to say this, too. Like, we were calling for McIntyre to beat Gunther at SummerSlam. And, whew, man, good thing that didn't happen. Just based on the direction of McIntyre's character the last few weeks. Yeah, I mean, when it comes to Gunther, okay, look at this. He had a barn burner of a match with Chad Gable on Raw this past week. Cody Rhodes said the locker room gave them a standing ovation when they came back through the curtain. That's incredible. Gunther is absolutely incredible. Now, is he one of the greatest wrestlers of all time now? No, he's not. No, he's not. No. He's been on WWE TV, main TV for what, a year and a half was when he debuted? Like, was it late 2021? I don't remember exactly when Gunther got called up.
It was around WrestleMania 38 season. I think it may have been just after that, I think. And he's really made his impact since. So around 2022.
Okay, so he's around. So he's a year and a half. He's less than 2 years. Okay, so Gunther's been around for less than 2 years in WWE main TV. That right there, like, you got to throw him out for consideration of greatest wrestlers of all time. On that merit alone. Like, he didn't do too much in the indies. It's not like he had a Kenny Omega-like career outside of WWE. Or Will Ospreay or an Okada-like career, So we can't really... He doesn't have, like, a body of work outside of WWE to put him up there as, like, one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. He's been on the big stage less than 2 years. Yes, he's made an impact in that time. But he's not there yet, And the long title reign, I think it's more of a specific thing to Gunther. I think it's more to build him up. 1, build the Intercontinental title up. 2, build Gunther up so when he does lose that title, it's going to be to someone that, when it does happen, it's a big deal. Like, oh, this guy beat Gunther. Wow, okay. And then Gunther's going to do the job and go on to the World Heavyweight title picture, presumably. Probably beat Seth Rollins, but he could be a good guy to chase after Roman Reigns. There's always a lot of meat on the bone there. I wouldn't mind a Gunther versus Roman Reigns match with Gunther getting the 1, 2, 3. I think he would be a credible guy to carry both belts, the Universal Heavyweight Championship belt. I'd love to see it. I think that's what it comes down to with the IC title. I don't think we're gonna see too many title reigns. I don't want to make this about the title reigns, but I don't think we're gonna see too many long title reigns. I think it's specific. And a lot of it's resetting history. Like, Honky Tonk Man had been the longest reigning champion for 40 years, damn near. So it's like, all right, yeah, we'll put Gunther in. That'll set us up for the next 10, 15 years, 20 years. Then we can break the record again, type of thing.
The only count of that is, once again, that Theory reign that went nearly 300 days. And it's like, just why? Like, I mean, the Theory is the outlier to all this. And we'll get to him and some other topics in a minute. But, yeah, I think just want to emphasize... I can't praise that what they're doing with Gable is brilliant, might I say. Like you have obviously the guy who's the Goliath Gunther who is unbeatable, and then you've got a guy who for a long time was just Shorty G, literally some bum who Alpha Academy was funny at points. It was a little segment, 2 hours and 12 minutes into Raw backstage with Otis, and they're shimmying and they're trying drinks. Mike's harder than last time, pal. I'm a Chad, you're an Alpha. I get it. It's a fun little bit 2 hours into Raw, but now this has really made him be like, okay, he's a credible mid-carder. I didn't view him that way before. I viewed him as an enhancement talent. Oh, he's just there. But now they've made him up to like a mid-card, credible sort of guy, and maybe he beats Gunther. I don't think Gable should beat Gunther. I just don't. I think you can give that to someone better, but that's just me. I don't know. But going forward, yeah, Kevin, we'll see. This will play out. We'll definitely be discussing more of Gunther. No doubt he'll be for the next year or 2 years, seemingly the one who takes that step from upper mid-card, credible mid-card to the main event. And that's where you get tested. That's where we separate the tiers when you get to the main event. That's where we really go, okay, are you for real? Like, where do you rank? What are you? So there you go.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. All right, pal, you want to go to the next question?
Pal, I would love to. And Kevin, this is a question which, I wanted to ask you for quite some time, pal. I wanted to, phrase this to you. It's a 2-part question. I'll ask you the super serious, meat on the bone question first, Kevin. This surrounds my favorite Australian, Grayson Waller. So, Kevin, I'll ask you this. Is saving Theory's career single-handedly the biggest test WWE's ever given a young talent, in this case, Grayson Waller? Because, Kevin, I'll be honest, as we've discussed, Theory is one of the trash men alongside JD McDonough and Corey Graves. He is just useless. So he's being paired with Grayson Waller, a guy who has legitimate charisma, legitimately entertaining, a pretty good in-ring guy, very capable talent. He's already mixed it with all the main eventers, Cody, Edge. They're about to do Cena next week. Grayson Waller's him. He's that guy. And WWE's got this tag team going, which A-Town Down Under, I like the name because Waller's involved. Of course, it's going to have a good name. Of course, it's going to be good in that regard. But it's Theory.
Yep.
Kevin, I'm so disappointed that they're I get it. They're both obnoxious, brash, arrogant assholes. I get it. But Theory's not good. Waller is good. That's your review. So, Kevin, what are your thoughts on WWE burdening Grayson Waller with Theory?
I love that you word this the serious question. I love that. Yeah. Yeah, Grayson Waller, he's at Randy Savage carrying Ultimate Warrior to a great match level of carrying. If he's gonna bring Austin Theory up to a credible level of just the fan base look at him oh, this guy's serious, yeah. If Grayson Waller could get 10 people that are watching SmackDown to say, yeah, I think Austin Theory is gonna be a great wrestler, or he is a great wrestler. Shout out to him, he's done his job, pal. Not really much for Grayson Waller to work with there, man. This segment on SmackDown, it was okay, LA Knight's out there. And then Grayson Waller comes out. He's like, oh, hold on. I'm going to let Austin Theory get you. My boy A-Town Down's going to get you. I'm going to step back. And he just lets Austin Theory cut a promo on LA Knight. LA Knight listens to it and then just demasculates him and Grayson Waller in 2 minutes. And it made Grayson Waller look pretty weak. I'll be honest. It was not a great pairing. Hopefully that one doesn't last too long. I would be very worried. It's borderline panic button time. If Grayson Waller gets paired with Austin Theory for a reasonable amount of time, if they become a tandem for the next 2-3 months, that might be it for your boy, man. Honestly, I don't know. That's a big test.
Paul Levesque, what are you doing? I get it because once again, Kevin, can you get your notepad?
Yes.
Can we do this bit again?
Yes.
Can you write down on a piece of paper, Grayson Waller Theory tag team? So, Kevin, and listeners, if you're watching this on YouTube or listening to the audio platforms, what Kevin's doing right now is writing down, doing what Triple H, Paul Levesque himself, the Chief Content Officer, Head of Creative did, right here. Theory, Grayson Waller tag team. That's what Triple H wrote down. Now, this is good because Triple H wrote it down. If Vince McMahon wrote it down, it would suck. And it's a test. I think Waller, look, Could Dwayne The Rock Johnson make Theory an entertaining tag team act?
No.
I don't think God himself could do this. This is ridiculous. Like, Kevin, I don't think you understand how incompetent Theory is. Theory can't cut a promo to save himself. He sounds like he's a worse promo than Big Cass in 2017 when he was reading the script and it sounded like he didn't know how to read. That's how bad Theory is at promos. He got demasculated brutally by LA Knight. That was hard to watch. I know what you mean. Like, Waller can at least hold his own a little bit and like brush off any real digs and try and fight fire with LA Knight for a bit. But even then, that segment was hard to watch. And this is like the biggest Grayson Waller fan in the community. I found it hard to watch. So WWE, Triple H, pull your head out of your ass, get Theory away from Grayson Waller. Grayson Waller is doing the Grayson Waller effect with Cena next week. Cena. Okay, this is one of the greatest of all time, as we'll discuss now. Elite Heat 25, Elite Heat 50. And what's he got to work with? I don't know. I'll park it there. We'll leave it there. Watch this space. Do not, Triple H, Paul. I'm going to talk to Paul Levesque right now. Kevin, forget this.
Oh
Paul Levesque, if you stuff up Grayson Waller, I'm done. Okay, this is too good of a talent, too talented of an act for you to F him up. So keep him away from Theory, end this pairing. Thank you. That being said, Kevin, I'm going to ask you a part two. Yes. I'm going to ask you a question, okay? So I'm not talking to Triple H, Paul Levesque anymore. He's put his notepad away. Forget about that. I'm going to ask you a question. LA Knight, you mentioned how he literally demasculated Theory and pretty much took Grayson Waller down with him in the SmackDown segment. I'll ask you this. LA Knight, merch sales, once again, still through the roof. It's now September. Reactions are through the roof. Momentum is really good still. And it's feeling sustainable at the moment. It's feeling like something. It's not just like a 1 week, 1 month thing. I'll ask you this. He's going to beat The Miz in like a week, 2 weeks, whenever they do that match, Fastlane. Where to do you reckon? Like, what's the sort of roadmap you envision? Something that would be okay with you, roughly, to LA Knight. We're not asking for fantasy booking show by show for 6 months, but just a general sort of, ballpark.
I think if LA Knight continues with this trajectory, I think he's a guy that you put in the hat for the Royal Rumble 2024 winner. He has to be one of the front runners, but one of the guys is in consideration for that. How could he not be at this level if he continues this level of consistency and quality work? He's going to get Cena. It looks like he's going to get Cena soon in a match. He beats John Cena. How do you deny that guy at that point after he beats John Cena clean? This is a guy that's worthy of beating John Cena, unlike Austin Theory. Like, it's still gross to look at and think, oof, Austin Theory beat John Cena. John Cena had to unretire just to erase that just watermark on his legacy. He could not possibly ride off into the sunset in Hollywood without just giving us a better lasting memory than losing to Austin Theory at WrestleMania. He's going to come back, face LA Knight. Who knows where that goes? Who knows what Cena's going to do after that? But that's what we need from LA Knight. Beat Cena, continue on this trajectory, continue to be consistent, maybe go after Rey Mysterio and the U.S. title, and then come Royal Rumble season, he's going to be one of, if not the biggest name, that people are going to be like, oh, we need him. We need LA Knight Mania, pal.
Problem with that, and we've seen this before. Okay, LA Knight continues this. Momentum. Finishes off Miz. He has a match against Cena. Maybe that's in Saudi Arabia or whatever. They do a Cena thing in October. He does something, good, and he's rampaging hot through the end of the year. He gets the Royal Rumble. LA Knight needs to win the Royal Rumble. LA Knight should win. Well, what do you do about Cody Rhodes, who's probably going to win the thing, or at least he's going to be up there, or Gunther, a guy like that? Because you can have LA Knight, who everyone's going to want to win. Everyone's going to be angry when he loses. And then you're going to have Gunther and like Cody, who are probably the ones who should be winning it, or being the final two. But LA Knight Manias could happen. There could be a thing. We need LA Knight to be pushed up the card. We need LA Knight. Now, granted, maybe the fans have changed. This is going to be the big test, I think. We can get to WrestleMania season with LA Knight. Will we get fans saying he needs to main event? He needs to be in the title match. He needs to win the Royal Rumble. Same way we did 2014, 2015, all these hijacks. Or are we going to see the fans cheering LA Knight, wanting LA Knight to do well, but understanding that Paul Levesque has a bigger picture? I'm hoping they understand, because otherwise it could be a recipe for chaos. They get to the Royal Rumble final 2. LA Knight's just been thrown out by Gunther, and then the crowd just boos Cody if he wins, or boos Gunther, or just turns their back on the rest of the show. Do you see what I'm saying?
No, I get it. I get it. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I want to table the LA Knight talk. There's more I want to say, but
Yeah.
we got to table it for time's sake here.
Yeah,
all right,
we'll move it on.
Next question. I'm going to ask you this, but I want to answer it first because I have a lot to say about this.
Go for it.
So, what is the new era of AEW going to look like?
Reverse card. You answer that. What's the new era of AEW going to look like, Kevin?
So, what I mean by new era is this. CM Punk is gone. And now it's like this, basically, CM Punk and Cody are gone. So AEW, they've ridden themselves of the guys that have that WWE mentality, that pro wrestling, that business is business mentality. They've ridden their locker room of those guys. MJF's still around, but MJF's of that younger ilk, so it's not quite the same. Now it's the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, it's their show fully. They don't have to worry about wrestling with guys like Cody and CM Punk that see things completely differently than they do. They can do whatever they want. They're going to run ramp shot now. We're going to see what they're made of. We're going to see what they do. They're inheriting a Collision show. That's a live Saturday night show. And Collision was cool because it felt different than Dynamite. Now you're going to have two shows that feel exactly the same. What are they going to do? How are they going to pique my interest? How are they going to get me to say, Saturday night, 8 o'clock, I'm going to watch Collision tonight? And it's, I mean, for me, at least, somebody with a full-time day job and someone who cherishes their Saturday off, is going to be very hard for any type of wrestling, any type of entertainment to get me to say, yeah, I'm gonna watch this. I'm gonna devote this to my Saturday night at 8 p.m. So it's a little bit tougher for me, but just in general, the other like 500,000-600,000 people that watch Dynamite, that don't watch Collision, what can they do to get those people? I don't know. Remains to be seen. And I'll say this real quick. Did you see the clip that surfaced on the internet of the Young Bucks doing a victory lap on last week's Collision from Chicago after Punk got fired? So they came out to the hot crowd after the show went off the air, and they're literally like Shawn Michaels in '95 doing a victory lap celebrating the fact that CM Punk got fired. Those are the guys that are running the company.
Kevin,
just let that sit. Go ahead.
I'll say it like this. AEW, with that happening, with, this wrestler got fired. Oh, here come the executives of the company to run around jumping up and down like idiots in front of the Chicago crowd because that's the wrestler got fired, it's hometown. Ha ha, see you, Phil. F you, Phil. Bye-bye. And then they're going to run their indie show, which is just going to be, there's a WCW 2000 element to that. There's a WCW 1999. I mean, certainly backstage, it's WCW 1999 2000. Certainly, objectively, on screen, I'm sure the matches will be good, and because the talents involved, they've got good talents in AEW. There's rumors Edge might go to AEW. Like there's talents there. There's not just going to be an absolute pure car crash, and it's not going to be WCW 2000 from on the screen, but. God, that gives me the the hearing that's just, and maybe the Young Bucks are heels, I think, or are they? I don't know. Are we supposed to hate the Young Bucks? I don't know what they are. I've never known what they are. I've talked about this for 3 years since we've been doing this podcast. What are they? They're parodies of wrestlers. Like I couldn't explain to you what the Young Bucks are. They're two guys who look similar from Rancho Cucamonga who do slap kicks and pander to like the niche internet audience, and they're parodies of wrestlers. Like I don't know what they are, and I guess they're celebrating Phil, pal, haha, evil mean Phil, bitter old Phil, pal, ha ha ha, see you, Phil. Okay, great. I mean, I wasn't watching Dynamite because I find that show. Here's my AW position, Kevin. Outside of MJF and this Adam Cole thing, which feels like a legitimate WWE storyline. That feels like a entertainment-based, interesting, long-term story. Everything else just feels like Ring of Honor. And I guess that's what AEW has become. It's just an indie show now. On a high budget with Tony Khan paying Edge or whatever wrestler several hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars. AEW is the Saudi league to WWE or to like the soccer stores. Is my analogy making sense here?
Yes,
You know, like
absolutely.
where they got a lot of money, a lot of resources, a bottomless pit of cash. That a guy like Edge, who has his big WWE farewell run for 3 years, now he steps back and goes, yeah, let me get that $3 million bag from Tony Khan every year because the Khans have a never-ending pit of money. I can
Well,
have a quick
it'll be what
like,
Saudi Arabia's basketball league is when they poach Giannis Antetokounmpo when his contract's up with Milwaukee. And they start up this big league, and it's just Giannis and a bunch of guys that were playing in Turkey that couldn't make it to the NBA. You know, and Giannis is scoring like 75 points a night. That's
for real.
That's what it is. Yeah.
That's not us. That's not us hating. That's not us trying to be like, oh, this is just WWE fan. Like that's just what it could become. If there's a bunch of amateur children running around backstage, dancing in front of Chicago fans because a Chicagoan got fired because they were dramatic backstage, and then on screen's just like a niche type of like independent sort of product where you have to know a bunch of stuff about different people behind the scenes. You have to know all this stuff to get it. And a guy like MJF, if he leaves, God forbid. I mean, if MJF leaves and they sort of drop away with this Cole storyline, I don't have a reason to watch AEW at all. I watch AEW for MJF. That's my position. I don't watch it for Chris Jericho at 54 as a shell of himself, trying to stay relevant and wrestle against some 27-year-old who's wrestled in the Indies for 6 years. I don't watch it for that. I watch it for MJF. And there you go. I don't know. So, Kevin, new era of AEW. Do you want to move on to the next question, pal?
Yeah, I'll close with this. AEW, they could have killed their biggest market in Chicago. Honestly. I mean, Tony Khan is getting booed by the crowd. The Young Bucks are out there doing monkey flips and doing gymnastics because they got their biggest star fired. Like, none of it makes any sense. But, yeah, like, could it have killed their Chicago market? I don't know. Now,
sorry, before you move on, just to recap within 20 seconds, in the space of 3 months, split up the roster and divide everyone to give CM Punk his own show on Saturday night, live 2-hour show every week, and then he gets fired, and then you've got, so the 2-hour show is still there, the locker room's sort of like, oh, okay, cool, I guess Punk's gone, and they're going to have to try and make amends a bit, because I'm sure Punk was friends with a bunch of people who are annoyed, so there's drama. And then now you got the Chicago market, which is like AEW's big market, it seems. You got, as you just said, Khan getting booed, Young Bucks dancing, doing monkey flips, celebrating, getting booed. I don't know. Move on.
Yeah. Big question. Hot question, pal. Should CM Punk join WWE? Do you want to see that?
Kevin, I'm going to pass to you on this. What's your position on this? Because I want to know where you stand before I go on this. What do you think?
I want to see it. I think, me personally, I think CM Punk learned in life that the grass ain't always greener. In AEW, I just have a feeling that he's looking at this and he's like, maybe I had it better in WWE than I thought, you know? And he could go get a lot of money from WWE, man. He could go get a ton of money. That money's there if he wants it. All that money that he's not getting because he got fired with cause from AEW. He can go get that 3 years left on his AEW contract. Go flip that into 3 years with WWE. Go make some royalties. Be in 2K24. Hey, he could be the cover athlete, pal. I think, okay, so you bring CM Punk in. Obviously, CM Punk versus Roman Reigns. Big business. Yep. But really, to me, the money feud, the marquee money feud for CM Punk is Cody Rhodes. I think. There's so much there. There's so much meat on the bone there. Those two guys don't like each other. Cody basically told Tony Khan, look, AEW is not big enough for both of us. One of us got to go. If you're choosing Punk, I'm out of here. So there's something there. You know, Seth Rollins don't want him there. Don't want CM Punk there. Seth Rollins called him a cancer in an interview. Man, the stories write themselves. You bring CM Punk in a controlled environment. You give him the same amount of input and creative freedom that guys like Edge have. Guys like Cody and Roman have. Why not? Is my question to you. Why not?
So you just mentioned what Seth Rollins said. Can you just repeat how Seth Rollins describes CM Punk, Phil Brooks, just generally, him being in a company?
Yeah, Seth Rollins described him as a cancer. And I'm saying that if Punk have realized, hey, grass wasn't greener, I can go back to WWE. I can play ball this time. I can be a better guy. I could be more respectful, easier to work with. If you get that version of CM Punk, I think it works. I mean, if Shawn Michaels could do it, if Ultimate Warrior could come back and make amends with people, Hulk Hogan could do it. Why can't Punk do it?
Sean is the template, I must say, for this. Someone who had in Sean's case, you can attest to this better than anyone with the amount of research, the amount of stuff, the amount of dirt on some of these scandalous individuals from the 80s and the 90s. But someone like Sean, it was backstage drama, it was conflict, it was spice, tension, drama for like pretty much the whole 90s, basically, especially as he's running the top guy. And then it was that time away, and he came back rejuvenated, renewed from 2002 through, the end of the 2000s, and it was quite incredible. And in an ideal world, in like a fantasy, all ducks line up in a row, everything goes smoothly, I'd love to see that with CM Punk. I'd love to see, he comes back and they do the Cody Rhodes feud, a massive, main event of SummerSlam next year, sort of, that sort of thing. They do a feud, CM Punk, Seth Rollins, where Rollins says, "You're the cancer in the locker room," yada, yada. The feud with Roman Reigns. There's a lot of meat on the bone against a lot of different people. I get that side of it. I do. My perspective, though, is keep him away. Just keep CM Punk away. Because, Kevin, I'll ask you this. Like, what's the definition of insanity? You know that phrase? Because to me, and what the phrase is repeating something over and over and expecting different outcomes. We know everyone who's, worked backstage and told the stories. Obviously, I didn't work in WWE backstage in 2011, 12, 13, or the start of 2014. But stories of Punk ripping up scripts in front of writers, yelling at writers, being, a good locker room leader when he, wanted to be. But when he wasn't in the mood, which Phil has his moods, as we know, Kevin, not great. Not a real presence you're desperate to have in your locker room. Granted, once again, WWE is a far more professional, polished environment than AEW. It just is. It would not be the carny show circus that All Elite Wrestling has been, with literal man-children, 37, 38-year-old, 40-year-old EVPs with the, I guess, what's the word? The people's skills, or the sort of I don't know the word, but the manner of like children, basically. The Young Bucks dancing in Chicago, celebrating someone being fired, that sort of stuff. There's none of that. But my answer is this, Kevin. Seth Rollins, a guy who is like one of the heart and soul WWE guys, who's been not problematic at all backstage, and one of the locker room leaders for a decade, one of the faces of your company, the Mr. WrestleMania. He's like, Phil Brooks, that guy's a cancer backstage. And maybe they could bring CM Punk in, and Triple H, Nick Khan, Ari Emanuel, the Endeavor executives, maybe they could contain him for 6 months. Maybe you have a good 6-month honeymoon period. There's a great Cody Rhodes feud, maybe a good Roman Reigns feud. Maybe it's like chemotherapy for 6 months. The cancer's subdued, but eventually that'll it can't be stopped. CM Punk, if he's backstage in WWE for, let's say, a year, it's gonna ruin what is, in WWE at least, a great world. Right now, WWE, Kevin, is the best. From a backstage standpoint, all you hear is good things. It's well run, great leadership, a clear structure. People like who's in charge and the structure, Triple H, the locker room environment, Cody, Rollins, Roman Reigns. Everything's working. There's no need to throw Phil Brooks in the mix to F it all up, because Cody versus Punk could be a great feud in my fantasy dream. Or Punk versus Roman, pal, played on 2K. Keep 44-year-old Phil Brooks out of that backstage environment. He's been called a cancer by Seth Rollins. That should be enough. That should be all you need to hear on this. Case closed. Shut it down, Kevin. No Phil Brooks. Can wrestling Twitter shut up about this? Because I'm like, my fantasy match, I want to see Punk versus Roman in 20... You don't really want what comes with that. So that's all I have on that, Kevin.
I'm going to say this. For you and I, we do a podcast about wrestling. Mm-hmm. Bring Punk in WWE just for that alone. Come on. The stories of CM Punk, erupting on Triple H in a one-on-one meeting, storming out of his office, leaving the office in Hartford, Connecticut. The stories of him and Seth Rollins getting into a fight backstage. Come on, bring it all to me. That's juicy content. Let him come back to WWE for the next 10 years. that would give us constant news, like just a circulation of news stories and headlines to talk about every single week. So from that standpoint, bring it to me, pal. I'm ready.
Kevin, can you imagine I can just pictures everyone listening. Just imagine, listen to this. So it's, I don't know, this time next year, it's 2024. Punk's come back, hypothetically. Let's say he's come in at the Royal Rumble, or he's walked out at WrestleMania. It's like, oh my God, CM Punk. He's had his moment. It's about 6 months in. The immediate honeymoon's over. We're after SummerSlam, literally September 2024, Kevin, okay? September 2024. And there's rumors, oh my God, WWE's going to do a CM Punk, Phil Brooks versus Seth Rollins feud. There's going to be a Punk and Rollins feud. Oh my God, they teased it on TV. Then we start getting the stories. The grapevine starts finding out there was a backstage dispute. There was a backstage argument. Triple H sat down in a room with Phil Brooks and Seth Rollins to talk this out. CM Punk got triggered. He spat at Seth Rollins, walked out. There's drama. Seth Rollins goes in an interview calling Phil Brooks the biggest lying asshole he's ever worked with, saying he's a horrible person, hypothetically. Triple H puts out some media statement. He gets asked at the Backlash press conference or whatever in September next year. So what were your thoughts on the CM Punk drama, yada, yada? The press conferences post-pay-per-view go from being all about the storyline, all about the good of WWE to what did CM Punk say here? What did CM Punk do in the Seth Rollins interview? What did CM Punk hear? And it just takes over. So there you go. Do that hypothetical what you will. That is what will happen. We saw this with Moxley and AEW. That will happen with Rollins and WWE. That just will happen. And do you want Seth Rollins leaving for what? 6 months of CM Punk? Oh, it's my dream match. I want Punk versus Tribal Chief Roman. Play it on 2K. Stop that. I don't know. That's just me, Kevin. I don't know.
Hey, the media personality in me wants it. Give us headlines, pal. Anything else you want to say, pal?
You're so scandalous, Kevin. You are so scandalous. Continue.
Anything else you want to add before we go to Around the World?
Okay, I just want to ask a quick question. We only have to cover for like a minute or two. This is all for you. You are, Wrestling Uncovered.
Yes.
First, I just want to say as well, I watched your video on Hogan and WrestleMania 7 and the drama with Sergeant Slaughter and that storyline and how you fleshed out what happened and the climate. That was a great video.
Thank you.
I hope that one, this isn't me just backslapping my co-host. It was a really good 11-minute watch. If you haven't seen it, I would really recommend. It's very educational, especially for someone like me. You might even know what happened, but the way it's presented, it's really well done. So shout out, Kevin. There was some good wording in there as well. I did notice that. But yeah, so Wrestling Uncovered, Kevin, you know all the dirt, or a lot of it, with this sort of stuff. So when it comes to CM Punk, his AEW backstage drama, I guess, how does that rank? Like, how does that compare at the moment from what we know? And just this is early days because more's going to come out as we can't wait for all the shoot interviews. Hogan, WCW, Hogan, McMahon, Shawn Michaels, Sonny, and all this drama with that. Shawn Michaels generally, some of these other personalities, Jim Hellwig, Ultimate Warrior. Like, where do you think at the moment this CM Punk elite scandalous drama ranks compared to that?
I think, honestly, on the scale of, like, Hogan, Shawn, Ultimate Warrior, CM Punk tips the scale leaning more towards Ultimate Warrior. He's a guy that had a 2-3 year peak. He's almost impossible to work with. Very similar to how the Ultimate Warrior was. He ended up really being a negative to AEW overall in the grand scheme of things. Yeah, he had some good feuds with Moxley and MJF. Yeah, I'm well aware of that. But in the grand scheme, when you're talking fiscally, financially, CM Punk's tenure in AEW is not going to be beneficial to their numbers. And I know Tony Khan doesn't give a shit about any of that.
Yeah.
Debt, numbers, profit. He don't care about any of that. He got enough money to make that all go away anyway. But to a normal business who doesn't have that oil money and that sweet, sweet con money to back them up, CM Punk would have been a huge disaster. CM Punk would have put any other wrestling company out of business. Aside from WWE. Like, if Ring of Honor called up and was like, hey, CM Punk, we're going to bring you in, we're going to make this big push, we're going to go live on national TV, they bring CM Punk in, and CM Punk pulls me in AEW, ROH is going under. They're going under, is it? They lost all their money. They gambled all their money on CM Punk. being this big star. So yeah, it's really unique though, unlike anything we've ever seen. Because he didn't have the pull that Shawn and Hogan had. You know, Punk didn't have that. If Punk had that pull that Shawn and Hogan had, Punk would have main evented WrestleMania 29, and we wouldn't even be here right now. You know, if he had that kind of pull, Shawn and Hogan could literally do whatever they wanted, get away with whatever. There was a clear line between Vince and Punk where Vince was like, "You're number two to Cena. Sorry, bro. Get over it. You know, you're gonna make millions of dollars. You're gonna sell a ton of T-shirts. You can main event WrestleMania in 3, 4, 5 years, but right now this is John Cena's time, and I'm not passing up doing Cena versus The Rock for the second time to do Rock versus Punk. I'm sorry." And that was
Perfectly
it.
said. Perfectly said. I have nothing more to add on that. So, Kevin, do you want to transition to the last segment of this show,
Yeah.
which might I say, I think this has been an excellent podcast. Hopefully you
Thank
guys enjoyed it. This has been great stuff. So, Kevin, round us out here. Is it about time we go around the world, baby? Woo! Around the world. I feel like a pimp, just like a worldwide pimp, spinning my globe, pal, international playboy. So where do you want to start us off, pal?
All right.
Talk to us. You are Mr. Around the World. This is a segment Kevin piloted. He had the brains and the vision for, pal. They call Seth Rollins the visionary. That is Wrestling Uncovered, Kevin. So Kevin, talk to us. Where do we want to start, pal?
Hey, one day, I envision us doing this segment where we got a ton of emails from listeners. So yeah, that email, eliteheat102@gmail.com. We're going to push that till it happens. Email is cool stuff to talk about, questions, whatever, anything you got, any ideas, topics, critiques, anything you want us to talk about. Email it to us. I'll start with this. So, Monday is Labor Day here in the States. Holiday, got a day off. I'm hanging out, whatever. I go to the mall. I go to the bookstore. I go to Barnes and Noble. Go get some books. You know, oh, let's check out these books. I'm looking in the sports section. You know, you got Kobe Bryant's biography. You know, you got books about the Dynasty Bulls, the '86 Mets, the Giants. You know, you got Tiger Woods' book is there. You know, Tom Brady has his fitness book.
Yeah.
You got Ric Flair. You know, all this cool stuff, all these cool sports books. And on the bottom shelf, you know what I see at Barnes and Noble on the bottom shelf, way down at the bottom. I'm scanning through all the shelves, and I'm like, wait, hold on, double take. What the fuck is this? It was Tyrus. Tyrus has an autobiography that's being sold in Barnes and Noble. I was like, I cannot believe this. I don't remember what the title of the book was. I should look it up. Let me see if I can find it.
Tyrus has a book in Barnes and Noble.
Yes.
Brodus Clay.
So it's called Just Tyrus, a Memoir.
Kevin, this is Brodus. This is one of the guys dancing with the funky dactyls.
Yeah.
And you said he's got a book 2 shelves below Kobe Bryant, Tiger Woods. You know, that's why they have like Messi and Ronaldo's like biographies. They have some books about NBA legends, MJ. You know, LeBron probably has like 3 books, yeah, biographies and things. And you've got Tyrus.
Yeah, so this is the description of the book.
Oh, this would be good.
So I actually found it on Amazon. I'm looking at the website right now. It has 11,000 ratings. And it has 4.7 stars. So it must be a good book. It came out the day after my birthday last year. Or no, 5 days after my birthday last year. Yeah, that's a pretty good ratings. I'm surprised. Okay, so here it is. New York Times and Wall Street Journal bestseller. Pro wrestler and political commentator Tyrus goes deep into his wild but triumphant life story, from his painfully dysfunctional upbringing to bodyguarding for Snoop Dogg to becoming a wrestling icon and one of the most provocative on-air voices today.
Wait, wrestling icon?
Yeah.
Okay. Kevin, would Brodus Clay Tyrus crack the top 500 wrestlers of all time?
I don't know. I mean, if you're talking 500, he might.
I think I'll be fair, he'll crack the top 1,000. But I think if you're doing like, I don't know, obviously this is too many wrestlers to just pick off the top yet. He'd probably be like 700th all time it's Brodus Clay. He came out dancing with the Funky Dackles, never had one match of importance, and then won an NWA championship in front of a bingo hall, and no one cared. Everyone hated it. I don't know. But Kevin, I mean, his book sounds good. I might actually go and try and read it just for content's sake. That actually sounds interesting.
I think I will too. Like, I was looking, I was like, who the hell would read a book about Tyrus? But, I mean, it has good ratings, which is surprising. Maybe I'll learn something about him that I don't know.
I
You know,
guess.
I mean, the guy is, he's still, at the end of the day, he's a person. You know,
Mm.
I mean, yeah, he says some shit on Fox News that people don't like, and he's not the best wrestler, but we'll see. I mean, seems like he made something out of nothing, so I can always respect that.
Well, in fairness, I'll look on the more the optimist side. So that book, I mean, it does sound like you've got a rough upbringing. So I know there's some stories there, some like challenges there, some tribulations. Being the bounce of a Snoop Dogg, I mean, there's probably some crazy stories that go along with that. Being a wrestler, not particularly a great one. I'm sure there's some interesting stuff with that, and like making WWE and making the big leagues, but not being that good. There should be some juicy stuff there, and even this political commentary. I'm sure he's some I guess volatile opinions. So maybe I'm being too harsh. I don't know, but it's just funny. Just wrestling icon Tyrus Powell.
Yeah, I might read it, to be honest with you. But I was just thinking, I was like at Barcelona, but I was like, Tyrus, like, it was just like, like one of those, like, which one of these doesn't fit with the others? You know, you got Kobe, you know, Dwayne Wade has a book, Tom Brady, you know, then there's Tyrus. And I'm just like, okay, cool. You know, he's the only wrestler, I think, aside from Ric Flair, that was represented on the shelf. And I was, yeah, whatever. I mean, hey, who knows, man? Might be good.
Yeah. And Kevin, one more thing similar to that. I mean, I had a similar situation at work. Not, I wasn't at Barnes and Noble, the bookstore, so it wasn't like I was, had reading material in front of me. But I'm sitting on my computer at work. I fire up the computer for the day before I get going on my job, and then it comes up with like I guess your homepage with all different news stories and what's going on, current affairs, news, yada yada. And then there's this like headline. It's got literally like the stock WWE logo from like the second picture on Google, just a WWE logo. Former legendary wrestler passes away, dies at 78 or something. It wasn't Terry Funk, it was someone else. I forget. It was like a wrestler who wrestled in the 70s, the 80s.
General
Like more,
Adnan.
no, it wasn't even. No, it was like wasn't recent. This was like 2 months ago.
Oh, okay.
I was thinking to myself, wrestling icon. Oh my god, because maybe this was breaking news. Maybe this was Hulk Hogan. Maybe this was some legend, someone you think, oh my god, and like like a Bray Wyatt situation where you're stopping in tracks and go, oh my god, and then I clicked it and I had genuinely never heard of the wrestler. I can't even remember their name now. It was someone from like the territories. I'm sure people may know. You may have a clue. This is like 6 to 8 to 10 weeks ago ish, sort of thing. And I see that headline: former legendary WWE wrestler passes away. I'm like, oh my god, because your first instinct's always, oh my god, oh my god, and then I'm like, I've never heard of that person. That was probably like a lower mid card enhancement talent, like 45 years ago. Rest in peace, respectfully. But like, okay, so it's stuff like that. I don't know. Just I don't know if any of you guys have had that where you've been almost clickbaited with a wrestler's death. Where it's like, oh, OMG, former wrestler dies, and oh my god, and then it's like, oh, okay, respectfully, they passed on, but I thought this was going to be like Hogan or Steve Austin with how it's titled, and it's a lovely enhancement talent. God rest their soul, whoever it is, from like 45 years ago. And it's like, okay,
Yeah,
sure.
classic journalism, pal.
Yeah. Pal, I thought Shawn Michaels had dropped dead, like from reading these headlines, and then it's just someone I've never heard of in my life ever. So there you go. That's me.
That's it. So are you much of a reader, pal?
I try. I try. I'm also into biographies actually. If I had to choose, or autobiographies, I find it interesting reading about like people who've made it. Almost, that makes sense. I just find pick an athlete, pick an individual. I've read like all three of Kobe's books. I know there's the 600-page one, the really thick one, the biography written by his trainer or like someone who followed him closely his whole career. And then you got like the Mamba Mentality, like the big one, which has like the pictures in it. There's like a little one I've read as well, but no, am I much of a reader? I mean, I need to read more, is what I'll say. And what about you, pal?
Yeah, I used to be when I was around like your age. I used to read a lot. I read like a bunch of self-help books. Was like kind of my big genre. You know,
Mm.
like I read like Think and Grow Rich and like Rich Dad Poor Dad, like books like that teach you leadership and
Millionaire Fast Lane, the
yeah,
4 hour work week or whatever it's called, like
yeah,
the same ones. Yeah.
yeah, stuff like that. Yeah, and about
Yeah.
investing.
Mhm.
I don't read too many books nowadays. A lot of the books I read now are also biographies. I read Bret Hart's book. I've read both of Jim Ross's books. Trying to think. I read a book about music. I can't remember what it was.
You read Jericho's books? He's got a few good ones.
No, I didn't
He's-
read Jericho's. No, I
They're
want.
good. They're good.
Yeah,
I would say.
I want to read them. I read Mick Foley's. Um, I'm reading Ron DeSantis' book right now. That's quite the interesting read. It's very interesting.
Mhm.
Um, that might be
No comment.
that
Let's move
might
on.
be a controversial topic. I just read books. It is what it is. Yeah. So
Well, Kevin,
I do like reading. I think reading is good for the brain.
yeah. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. Like, I was gonna like your overall thought because it's a sort of topic which no one discusses this. Like just reading generally, but it's like so important, especially going to be literate or have a knowledge of the English language. Writing helps you with writing and like how to present things, which is great for your school and your education and whatnot. I feel like personally, the issue I have and a lot of people have with reading is through like high school and college and all this stuff, especially. Reading's like a thing, oh God, you have to read this chapter of this to memorize this, and then you put the book away and never want to see it again. And they don't really read it as like a something to enjoy. It's the same thing with like running. Like everyone associates running with, oh, that's the hard thing you have to do when you play sport. Like you play basketball, you have to do the sprints as like a suicide for punishment. But like really, it's a hobby that there's a lot of fun, a lot of joy to be had from either going for like a nice casual cruisy run or just reading.
Yeah. And
And,
I read the news every day. I read news articles. Um, I read like sports journalism. I read just every type of news, magazines, digital magazines. Like I love to read. You know, I don't read a ton of books. It's just for me, it's like finding time to actually sit down and spend an hour reading a day. It's hard to find that time every day. Um, I try to, but
yeah.
it's difficult. It's easier said than done.
Well, because we're all so distracted is the other thing. Like, because pretty much everyone and was it? Oh, I remember Tate who says I don't remember, but like everyone has ADHD to some extent. Everyone can't go 15 seconds without looking at their phone or looking at the news or looking at or wanting something. And reading's a very old school like pastime of just sitting there, just reading, being very in the moment, looking at one thing, thinking, visualizing, being immersed in one world, and like all the distractions are cut off. Whereas, obviously nowadays it's like, oh my God, I've got to check, Twitter, my timeline. Oh my God, Instagram, got a message. Oh my God, I got to text this person. Oh, this. And your mind's just like that, just like doing all this stuff. And whereas reading's just so like, present, stimulating that
So
way.
peaceful.
Oh yeah. And pal, we're a peaceful podcast, pal. We promote love, peace. We are pal. We're an inclusive podcast. Just want to emphasize, pal.
Yeah. Very nice. All right, pal. Well, on that note, I think we should end it there. It's been a hell of an episode. This is another episode of Elite Take. Thank you all so much for listening, and we'll talk to you on the next one.